Christmas sucks. Okay, I'm kidding. The holidays are a magical time of year, but we need to talk about it. How's it going? I'm Sam, and it's time to fail together. Let's go. I think it's ridiculous that companies have convinced people that they need to celebrate and start building anticipation for holidays at least 2 to 3 months in advance. Why can't we leave room for each holiday and not be asked to celebrate for a one-day holiday 60 to 90 days in advance? Why do we start advertising for Christmas before Halloween has even happened? Not to mention that there's another holiday between here and there, Thanksgiving. Okay, now before we get too heated, let's dive into how this whole thing started. The origin of Christmas isn't as cut and dry as we'd like it to be, but what really is. Some of the earliest Christians denounced the celebration of birthdays as a whole, and thought of other days as holding more cause for celebration. Apparently, the early fathers had some shade to throw at pagan birthday partiers. Picking the 25th of December even has its own troubled roots. Supposedly, there's nothing in the Bible, and several suggestions for why that day might have been chosen. For a while, Christmas was even seen as less important than Easter and Good Friday, some of the other holiest Christian holidays. But the way we celebrate Christmas today looks scantily like the way it was celebrated back in the day. Many of the customs that we're well acquainted with have really only been around for a few generations or a couple hundred years, and none of them are based in theology. Take the Christmas tree, for example. The earliest records of people bringing the outdoors in started around the 1400s, and that was just a branch. Now, people scramble in a mad dash to boast the biggest tree, some several stories high. Turning them into an all-out fire hazard, though, didn't start until about 200 years later. You can thank a duchess for that. And advent calendars became commercialized halfway through the 1800s. So what about the surroundings of Christmas? Surely this should add some context. Advent is a part of the liturgical or worship calendar that comes up within the month leading up to Christmas. Being a season of preparation, it makes sense that Christians use the lead time to get ready for the season. However, the type of preparation they're suggested to be doing is much different than dinner spreadsheets and gift lists. It lends itself more to a spiritual preparation, one that readies your heart for quiet and discipline in the joy of Christmas. Now, this is a very religious take on Advent, but there is a much more secularized and commercialized edition, the Advent calendar. Supposedly, this board of flap doors is the 1800s invention of an irritated mother trying to escape her children's questioning on the arrival of Christmas. What else could be more the mother of invention than a parent hiding from their kids? Anyways, it's easy to see how the liturgical lines have been blurred by commercial grabs at children's love of chocolate. Social common sense states that Christmas was originally a pagan holiday, but upon doing honestly not that in-depth of research, it's easy to see that it's not the case. Celebrated the same time of year, Yule is traditionally celebrated by several Germanic peoples. This festival is in the honor of the winter solstice. Its known origins and traditions seem murkier than Christmas itself, with many historians unable to agree upon what it was for and how exactly it was celebrated. What they can agree on are the themes: feasting, light, and fire, as is true for most winter solstice celebrations. Another lasting descendant of Yule is the log itself. Traditionally, the Yule log was just that, a log. Once alight, the celebration would last as long as the burn would allow. Sometimes this would be for up to 12 days. While some neo-pagans aimed to celebrate in the traditional way, those in the secular sphere found another reason to make a cake. I bet your local grocer thanks you for your business this holiday season. Let's talk about St. Nicholas and Santa Claus. Realistically, two figures merged into one. St. Nicholas is a popularly commemorated saint. Known for his generosity and kindness in the form of giving, his reputation spread his name throughout Europe. Known as Sinterklaas by the Dutch, his name morphed into Santa Claus as tradition crossed the ocean into early English-speaking America. True to form with other Christmas traditions, Nordic influence was once again merged with the day, when its folk tales of a child punishing and rewarding magician melded with the lore of the old patron saint. From here, it wasn't too much of a departure in popular culture before the figure of Santa Claus, as we know him, came to be. As the names of Saint Nick and Santa Claus become more interchangeable throughout the 1800s, artists like Clement Clarke Moore take their inspiration from this fused figure. A visit from St. Nicholas, popularly known as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," was the inspired result. This poem offers limited description of the man of the hour, explaining him as a sprightly and cheery peddler dressed in furs. The only color offered to the old man was a white beard, rosy cheeks, and a cherry nose. Finally, he's given his jovial laughing habit and rounded belly. This description is what supplemented Haddon Sundblom's rendition of Santa Claus when Coca-Cola commissioned him for some advert art in 1931. Previous depictions of Saint Nick were of a man clad in darker greens and browns, his coat being trimmed in patterns traditionally seen in more Germanic designs, or perhaps in bishop's garb. As Lord leaned heavier into the fantastical Santa character, other designs were heavy in black, some in yellow, and even in blue. As time went on, red became a more important color in his motif. Some designs are trimmed in black, and others in that more familiar white. It's commonly assumed that Coca-Cola's old ads is where the modern design of Santa comes from. After all, the red and white design fits the brand rather well, and while it might be safe to say that Coca-Cola's comfortable place in the homes of Americans might have helped to popularize and cement this design, it's not the first time he's publicly seen in that iconic red suit. But no matter what he wears, Saint Nick or Santa Claus has become less of a godly man and more of a character for companies to use in their ad campaigns. Pop culture. In the modern era, our access to technology has changed quite rapidly. Music and TV have been no stranger to influence, and this is relatively true across the globe. There are heartwarming tales like It's a Wonderful Life that leave you to contemplate your mortality and the importance of family and community. But there's also movies like A Christmas Story, whose major tagline is, "Sometimes Christmas is about getting what you really want," and that immortalizes a lamp shaped like a leg. Now, I'm not saying that all media should be morally pious. However, I am pointing out the differences in the kinds of stories that are being told, and the differences in their premises over time. Songs like It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year and Jingle Bells express a simple joy in the season and sharing it with others, while some other takes of the holiday include titles like Santa Baby and All I Want for Christmas Is You. These songs' themes sit a little bit more in between the sheets, but as we know, it sells. Adding to capitalism's influence, it seems like past a certain point in an artist's career, there's an expectation for them to create music that'll just sell. Some of which being covers of some of the most overdone Christmas favorites. CDs, vinyls, tapes, digital downloads of single and full album covers get pumped out every year. The more the industry makes, the more people buy. Anything to set the tone of the season, whether it's a double feature or a party playlist. What I'm most interested in, though, is the advent of giving gifts. See what I did there? While the lore of Christmas is a mishmash of many beliefs and traditions, the giving of gifts has an entirely secular background, and one that had only become firmly established by the end of the 18th century. The secularization of Christmas plays a part in the commercialization of it. It opened the doors for Christians and non-Christians alike to enjoy the season. Once the industrial era hits and goods become much more reproducible, reciprocal gift giving truly takes off. And here's where marketers catch a whiff. Cue Coca-Cola's rendition of Santa, Black Friday, the introduction of the internet and therefore shopping online, Cyber Monday, widening sales dates, and a depressed and lonely culture looking for that hidden dopamine to escape from it all. I think it's safe to say that we're in pretty deep. It's easy to wave this all off as melodrama, but all of this history is a serious departure from what Christmas was initially intended to be. A day demarking the deliverance of Jesus that follows the Advent, the season that builds the anticipation for Christmas, and the second coming of Jesus Christ, has become a frenzied sale fest that has led to the actual deaths and injuries of many people. There's even a website dedicated to this count. How about my personal take? I didn't grow up Christian. My household is Jewish. And while I identify with being more culturally Jewish than religiously, that didn't stop me from feeling left out as a kid. In my experience, I don't feel like Christmas is talked about openly as a secularized holiday. Overall, it read to me like a Christian holiday. We got off of school for religious observance after all. Not to mention, people started talking a lot about Jesus when they tried to explain the significance of the day to me. Having a tree in the house was a slight point of tension too. Each parent has different opinions of what it means and what it communicates to their kids. We had one some years and didn't others. Some years, we laughed and called it a Hanukkah bush as we topped it with the Star of David that my dad made. But we definitely left it off our decorations list more than we kept it on. My mom let us set out cookies for Santa and carrots for the reindeer. She would take her bites in the middle of the night as she laid out the gifts by the fireplace. As a kid, though, I always wondered why Santa still stopped at our house. Knowing we weren't Christians, like everyone else. Honestly, I felt like I was faking a celebration that wasn't mine to take. I knew that I would find it upsetting if Christians started celebrating Hanukkah. After all, it's not a Christian holiday. Understanding secularism, though, is probably way above a kid's pay grade. That being said, there's not really a lot of room to celebrate other religious holidays around this time of year. The Christian religion is already a majority in the West. And with the secularization and commercialization of the day, all other holidays are kind of easily steamrolled out of the way. Have you seen Hanukkah decorations in any other store? You're lucky if you get an end cap, let alone a section of an aisle. But this isn't my true beef. The focus of Christmas has morphed into building anticipation for gift giving, not spending time with your family and enjoying their company. There's so much built up stress over what to wear, who's bringing what dish to dinner, who gets to host, who has the sexiest tree, best decorations inside and out, and who did or didn't skimp on the gifts this year. The list could go on. Honestly, the idea of celebrating the most ideal Christmas is so all-consuming that you're openly shamed for feeling otherwise, for being against gift-giving and the idea of cheer of the season itself. There's so much pressure to be happy that it's miserable and no one talks about it. You're not allowed. Maintaining appearances is seen as way too important. So, forgive me for being a Scrooge about all the hype, but from my perspective, it just doesn't feel justified. I say, leave room for each holiday to have its time in the limelight. Let the celebrations breathe and be for what they were intended to be, in their modern contexts, of course. For Christmas, let it ring in love and warmth. But most importantly, spend time with your families. Don't let the social pressures built by corporations trick you into thinking that the holiday isn't complete without gifts under a tree. And don't let mob mentality sink in at the gates of Best Buy. Nothing screams Mary, Jesus, and Joseph more than a lawsuit on Christmas Day. I'll see you in the next one.